This page talks about the 1964–1996 Chevrolet van and GMC Vandura. For the post-1996 successor, see Chevrolet Express. The Chevrolet and GMC G-Series vans were made by General Motors for North America. They are in the same vehicle class as the Ford Econoline van and the now discontinued Dodge Ram van. The term Chevrolet van also refers to the entire series of vans sold by Chevrolet. The first Chevrolet van was released in 1961 on the Corvair platform, and the latest Chevrolet van in production is the Chevrolet Express. The G20 and its counterparts replaced the original Chevrolet Corvair Greenbrier van in the late 60s. The model line evolved until it was replaced in 1996 by the Chevrolet Express 1964-70 G20S came with 6 lug wheels bolt circle, while the 1971-96 generation came with the 5 lug, 5 inches bolt circle. G20S were fitted with the ball joints from the Chevrolet GMC 3/4 and 1-ton pickups, although using the 1/2-ton pickups brake rotors. A light-duty version, the G10, was produced alongside the G20. The early versions used the Chevrolet passenger car wheels bolt circle, until 1975, yet can still handle LT tire sizes for better handling and stability. The G20 series sported an SB 262 4.3L engine. Not much was changed mechanically in the vehicle since their release, other than carburetor to a throttle body fuel system, and less use of a vacuum system. Currently there are more aftermarket part options available for its V8 counterparts. Not much has been done in the lines of performance options for the small V6 G20 models, but the reliability remains the same throughout all the G-Series models. The G20's low cost of upkeep, size, and options have made this van popular with all different kinds of trades, from plumbers to caterers. First generation, the first General Motors van was the Chevrolet Corvair-based Chevrolet Greenbrier van, or Corvan, introduced for 1961, which used a flat 6-opposed rear engine with air cooling, inspired by the Volkswagen bus. Production of the Chevrolet Greenbrier ended during the 1965 model year. The first-generation Chevy van refers to the first Chevrolet G-Series vans G10A1 a 2-ton production years 1964 through 1966. General Motors saw a market for a compact van based on a modified passenger car platform to compete with the already successful Ford Econoline and Dodge A100. The 1964 Chevy van had a cab Ford design where the engine was placed in a doghouse between and behind the front seats. The implementation of situating the driver on top of the front axle with the engine near the front wheels is called internationally a cab-over vehicle. Engines and brakes were sourced from the Chevy 2, a more conventional compact car than Chevrolet Corvair. The Ford engine design allowed a flat rear floor with low deck heights in the rear of the van for loading-unloading cargo. This model was also sold by GMC as Handy Van. The first-gen vans were available in only the short 90-inch wheelbase and were only sold with the standard 90 HP 153 cubic inch straight 4 or Chevrolet straight 6 engine. A first-gen is quickly identified by its single-piece flat windshield glass. The first 1964 Chevy van was originally marketed and sold as a panel van for purely utilitarian purposes. Windows were available as an option, but were simply cut into the sides from the factory. In 1965, Chevy added Sportvan, which featured windows actually integrated into the body. GMC marketed their window van as Handy Bus. Air conditioning, power steering and power brakes were not available in the first-generation vans. Updates: 1964, the original classic flat windshield van. The 90 HP 153 cubic inches 4-cylinder engine was standard equipment with optional 120 HP 194 cubic inches Chevrolet straight 6 engine available. The straightforward construction and a boxy design was ideal for economically hauling cargo, tools and equipment around town. The base cargo model was the Chevy van, available with or without windows and side cargo doors. Even the heater and right front passenger seat were optional. The Warner 3-speed manual transmission was standard with column shift. A 2-speed Power Glide automatic transmission was available as an option. 1965. For 1965, the van remained largely unchanged. The grille openings were widened, and received one additional slot just above the bumper to increase cooling. Seat belts were added. The exciting news for the 1965 model year was the introduction of the Chevy Sportvan and GMC Handy Bus. Sportvan was a passenger-friendly van with windows molded into the van body. A retractable rear courtesy step for the passenger side doors was used on the Sportvan. The 194 six-cylinder engine was now standard equipment, with an available high-torque 140 HP 230 cubic inches six-cylinder. 1966, this was the last year of the flat glass front end on the Chevy vans. Changes for 1966 include the addition of backup lights, the side Chevy van emblems were moved forward and now mounted on the front doors, and the antennae location was moved from passenger side to driver side. The base model Sportvan now had two additional trim packages available, Sportvan Custom and Sportvan Deluxe. These featured available upgrades such as chrome bumpers, two-tone paint, rear passenger seats, interior paneling, padded dash, chrome horn ring. Second generation, in 1967, Chevy van received a major facelift, including moving the headlights down to a new redesigned grille, larger, rectangular tail lights and a curved windshield. The Ford control cab design was retained, but the doghouse was lengthened, widened and slightly relocated in order to fit an optional Chevrolet small block engine. Engine cooling was improved with the addition of an optional larger cross-flow type radiator and a redesigned front floor which included a low-profile tunnel allowing more fresh air to the radiator. The second-gen vans were available in either the 90-inch or the longer 108-inch wheelbase. Power steering and conventional air conditioning were never available on the second-generation vans. 1967 begins the second-generation Chevy van with a whole new look to the van and offering a longer 108 wheelbase and V8 power turbines for the first time. GM designers moved the headlights down to a new grille, added longer, rectangular tail lights and a rounded glass windshield. 1967 was the only early second generation that did not have side marker lights. The Ford control cab design was retained, but the doghouse was widened and lengthened in order to fit the optional V8 Chevrolet small block engine. Engine cooling was improved with redesigned doghouse, the addition of a larger optional cross-flow type radiator and a redesigned front floor tunnel more fresh air to the radiator. The second-gen G10 vans were available in the original short wheelbase 90 inches or the new optional long wheelbase 108-inch with 5 on 4 and 3/4 lug bolt pattern. Another feature in 1967 was the availability of a new G20 heavy-duty 3/4 ton van. The G20 featured heavier suspension, a 12-bolt rear axle and increased hauling capability with a 6-lug bolt pattern. The G20 model was available only on the 108 long wheelbase. For 1967, the 140 HP 230 cubic inches six-cylinder was now standard, with the optional 155 HP 250 cubic inches six-cylinder or the 175 HP, 283 cubic inches two-barrel, V8. Brakes were now upgraded to a safer split system including a dual reservoir master cylinder. 1968, this was the first year that Chevy vans had side marker lights, mandated by federal government regulations. The front lights were located towards the front in the middle of the front doors, while the rear marker lights were located about a foot inward of the very back edge just below the vertical middle of the van. The optional V8 engine was upgraded from the 283 two-barrel to the larger, more powerful 307 two-barrel V8. A column shift 4-speed transmission was now available as an option. The 1968 Chevrolet Sportvan 108 was the inspiration for the Scooby-Doo cartoon series van known as the Mystery Machine. 1969, for the 1969 model year, the 3-speed TH350 turbo-hydromatic automatic transmission and optional power brakes were now available. Body-integrated air conditioning was available on 1969 Sportvan models. This was not your typical AC setup with dash vents and controls, but rather a roof-mounted unit with a single blower duct that had adjustable louvers to direct airflow. Up front, the Chevrolet Boaty emblem changed in color from red to blue this year. 1970 was the last year of the square styling, front drum brakes, and I-beam front axle. The 250 CID six-cylinder was now standard equipment. In addition to the 307-2-barrel V8, a 350-4-barrel V8 engine was available as an option for the first time in 1970. The 3-speed automatic and manual 4-speed column shift continued to be available as transmission options. Third generation. In 1971, Chevy van received a major redesign, moving the engine forward of the driver with a short nose and hood. The van was constructed of an unibody-style frame and employed stronger truck-style hubs and brakes with dual A-arm independent front suspension. The major restyle followed the engine-forward design of the competing 1968 Ford Econoline. Suspension and steering parts came from the Chevrolet GMC G-Series pickup trucks. GMC now marketed their vans under the Vandura name. These models between 78 and 96 were popular with van conversions such as Curtiss and Starcraft. In addition to the cab chassis models, there were also factory cube vans from Chevy and GMC, called the Chevy High Cube or High Cube, and GMC Magna Van. For 1997, the Chevrolet and GMC vans were replaced with the next-generation Chevrolet Express and GMC Savannah. They adopted aerodynamic styling, and the extended 15-passenger version rode on a longer wheelbase, rather than just an extended body. These vans were built on a stronger truck frame versus the previous generation's unibody construction. A left side door was made available for the declining passenger van market. Engines. The G20 passenger van came standard with a 4.1-liter L6 and 235 lb-ft at 2400 rpms. The G20 could also have an L05 engine, which was a 5.7-liter V8 at 3600 rpms, 300 lb-ft at 2400 rpms. A 7.4-liter V8, 385 lb-ft at 2400 rpms, was exclusive to the G30. The transmission choices were a 4-speed automatic or a 4-speed manual. Chevrolet also offered, in 1982 and Euro 1995, the Detroit diesel V8 engine and 5.0-liter V8, 247 lb-ft at 2400 rpms, updates. 1971, all-new body style was introduced this year, which continued until the end of the 1996 model year. The Vandura and sister Chevy van replaced the earlier flat-nosed model. The GMCs were introduced in April 1970. Interior components such as the steering column and steering wheel were sourced from the Chevrolet GMC CK pickups. The short wheelbase vans measured 110 inches, while the long wheelbase was 125-inch wheelbase. Clear blinker housings were used on early models, along with blue grille ornaments Chevrolet models. 1973, for 1973, the dashboard was redesigned, steering wheel and side fender badges became similar to that used on the new for 1973 pickups and the Chevrolet Boaty grille emblem was changed from blue to yellow. In these 73 to 77 Chevy van years you could order a custom van of your dreams, complete with shag carpet and side pipe exhaust from the comfort of the Chevrolet dealership, through a company called Vantastic owned by Hopcap Incorporated in Bremen, Indiana. During the same period, GMC offered cutaway versions called the Magna van, while Chevrolet offered a similar version called the High Cube van. 1978. The front sheet metal was updated. Changes include, a new, built-out plastic grille with integrated blinkers, different fenders, round headlamps on lower-end models and square headlamps on higher-end models, and another new dash. Front and rear bumpers were enlarged. Chrome grille required square headlamps. 1980, all 1980 vans were given new rear-view mirrors on the driver and passenger doors. Some models got electronic spark control. 1981. Chevrolet offers Bonaventure trim for 1981 and 82 with chrome bumpers, chrome side marker lights and trim around the tail lamps. Also, the only G-Series vans that had chrome grille and round headlamps from the factory. Any other G-van with a chrome grille from 1978 to 1982 required the rectangular headlamp option. 1982, for 1982, the locking steering column was introduced. The ignition switch, dimmer switch and wiper switch were relocated to the steering column. After 1982, 3-speed manuals would be relocated to the floor and base models will no longer have round headlamps, which would make manual transmission 1982 G vans rare and collectible, as 1982 was the only model year with column shift manual transmission and ignition switch on the steering column. Also, 1982 was the only year with the left rear glass as an option on one side only. 1983, the 6.2 diesel was first available and stacked 4 headlights introduced, alongside with a revised grille. Base models continued with 2 headlights. All van models now have square headlamps. From this model year on, tilt steering was available with a manual transmission because the steering column was retilted to be similar to the CK trucks, and all manual transmission levers are now on the floor. New steering wheels were introduced as well to be similar to the Monte Carlo Malibu. Automatic overdrive introduced. 4-speed manual 117M transmission introduced. This version was made famous by the American television series The A-Team. 1984, new swing outside doors were introduced to go with the standard sliding side door. The doors were a 60/40 split. Last year for chrome trim side marker lamps and chrome trim around tail lamps options. 1985, the tail light and side marker lenses were redesigned. New grille treatment similar to the pickups. 1986/87, most engines are fuel-injected and a 4.3-liter V6 replaces the old 4.1-liter inline-six 115 HP. Diesel engine 6.2 is available in 165 HP. A carbureted 5.0-liter 190 HP V8 engine was also available in the 49-state version, with fuel injection for California emission vehicles. 1989, introduced TBI 454 CIG30. 1990, unlike the Dodge Ram and Ford Econoline vans which had a welded-on body extension, a 155-inch wheelbase was introduced. This was done to accommodate an extra bench seat, finally giving GM a 15-passenger van. GM was the last American automaker to produce such a van, with Dodge introducing the genre in 1971 and Ford joining them in 1978. 1992. Facelift using the front grille from the former Chevrolet GMC G-Series pickups and SUVs, previously phased out of production in 1991. G30 models getting 4L80E transmission as standard. 1993, the 4L80E/4L60E automatic transmission was introduced, replacing the TH400/TH700R4. Brake shift interlock is a standard, new for 1993 feature, which requires the brake pedal to be depressed in order to shift from park. A 4-wheel anti-lock brake system is also a standard, new for 1993 feature. 1994, a driver's side airbag and center high-mount stop lamp were made standard, as well as CFC-free refrigerant in models equipped with air conditioning. 1995, a new longer nose and 4 headlight design was introduced, a very popular school bus conversion. The engine also received a facelift, with the 4.3L V6 now labeled the Vortec. Engine sizes remained fairly the same, for example 4.3L, 5.7L, 7.4L engines. Several versions of the van were available for purchase depending on the buyer's needs. Base model was basically a stripped-down model, no frills, very limited interior and no rear seats. The sport van had all the features of a full conversion van, but no rear seats and no fiberglass roof extension. Then finally, the conversion models were sent from the factory bare bones, to have the interior and exterior upgrades added by third-party companies such as Mark III, Tiara, Coach, Starcraft, etc. 1996, this year was essentially carryover from 1995. The 1996 G20 conversion van was an echo of the first-generation G20. Concept vehicles. In 1966, General Motors developed the concept vehicle Electra van, based on the GMC Handy van. The vehicle used a Union Carbide cryogenic fuel cell to power a 115 horsepower electric motor. It never went into production due to cost issues and safety concerns. References: Mellon, Thomas A., Chevrolet, GMC 1/2, 3/4, 1-ton van repair and service manual 1967 1986, Chilton's Manual, Hall, Douglas Kent, VAN People, The Great American Rainbow Boogie New York, T.Y. Crowell, 1977, External links. The first fuel cell vehicle was built from a Chevrolet van in 1966, the A-Team van, 1977 GMC Trucks brochure.